Hello, this is Eric. Today is March the 3rd, 2023, and in this video, we'll be discussing the crisis of the Oligarchic Republic, right? We've been talking about the Oligarchic Republic for quite a while now, and it is time for us to address its end, right? Well, if you remember our previous class, we learned about the social movements, all the social movements, or at least most of the social movements during this troubled period of the history of Brazil, right? And it is really important that we highlight here the role that the movement known as lieutenantism had in the decline and in the end of the Oligarchic Republic, right? In one of our previous classes, we learned about the first appearance of this group of lieutenants, right, during the Epitácio Pessoa government. Okay, the movement was named the 18 of the Fort of Copacabana. So if you don't remember, or if you don't know much about this this first movement, this first operation, right, of the movement of the people here, the lieutenants supporting this movement, go back to our classes. It's the first class, actually, when we start talking about the Oligarchic Republic. And there we will give you more information about this. But in sum, what the lieutenants craved, really, was really a national salvation ideal, right? This lieutenantism here was a movement of young officers of the army, right? Lieutenants and captains against the Oligarchic Republic. They were tired of this Oligarchic Republic, of this thing of São Paulo and Minas Gerais taking turns in power. So they really wanted to rescue, to save the country. However, they did not expect to be supported by the people, right? Most of them were, people that studied a lot, right? They came from the elite, so they had access to nice education, and they did not expect that the people, right, would understand what they were doing. But really, they were about nationalism, right? They wanted, to focus on the national economy, and they wanted to get rid of all that dirty stuff that they did during the Oligarchic Republic. You know, the open vote, right? The Coronism, and all that thing there that we talked about in the previous classes, right? So basically, their flag was the secret vote, the electoral justice, and the centralization of state powers. Yeah, because they argued that the reason why this all this oligarchic republic was possible is because too much power had been given to the states. So they wanted, again, power to be centralized in the executive sphere, right? Well, and you have there the first movement, as I said. I mean, the first time that the movement showed its face, to the country with a movement called the 18 of the Fort of Copacabana in 1922. So in this case, in this opportunity, what happened is that basically all the lieutenants except two of them were killed, right? And even the two ended up really injured. Well, anyway, now, even though they faced defeat in this first attempt, that doesn't mean that they gave up, okay? In the next government, during the Arthur Bernardes government, lieutenantism went on, right? In 1923, we had a revolution in the state of Rio Grande do Sul. Why? Well, basically because they were tired of seeing Governor Borges de Medeiros being re-elected. The guy had been a governor for 4 mandates, and he was being elected for the fifth consecutive time. So they were really tired of him. So this movement had as its leader Assis Brazil, right, from the Libertador Party, right? And after, the thing was so severe, was so grievous, that Arthur Bernardes, the president, established the state of siege in the country. Yes. Well, after all that conflict, the whole thing was, let's say, was solved, was sorted out with the governor's re-election ban. So the guy could not be re-elected again. And the state agreed on providing greater political participation for the Libertador Party, right? Well, then in the next year, we have another revolution, this time in São Paulo, right? I used to say that this revolution should be named the Forgotten Revolution, right? Because due to the impact, the high impact that the 1930 revolution had on the country, and we are still going to talk about this 1930 revolution, don't worry about that. But anyway, this revolution was really surpassed, let's say, by the 1930 revolution. But anyway, it was big. You had as its leader General Isidoro Dias Lopes, right? And for around 13 days, you had the lieutenants, gaining control of the city and of the city of São Paulo and of the state of São Paulo, right? However, the government troops were sent, and after this, some battles during this period, the government troops managed to destroy, all the opposition by the lieutenants. There were some survivors. Many people died. It's really outrageous that, for the first time, airplanes were used, to defeat rebels, right? And the problem is that these airplanes, they drop bombs on the city, on civilians, on houses, and it was really chaotic. But anyway, the survivors, however, withdrew. They fled to Paraná in the south of the country, and they merged with other lieutenants in a lieutenant movement called Press's Lieutenant Movement, right? And these guys, basically, they walked around the country, right? Here you have a photo of them. This is the Press's Lieutenant Movement. And these guys, they traveled actually around 24,000 kilometers around the country. For what? They wanted to raise awareness, right, among the population regarding the current political regime. They wanted people to be aware that, there were people tired of this oligarchic republic, and they wanted to start something new in the country. However, the whole thing did not work out. They were defeated politically because the people was really apathic, right? The apathy from the people was greater than their effort, to spread the news, to raise awareness among the Brazilian population. Okay, well, and all of this was during the Arthur Bernardes government. Okay, and then after a few years, we have the 1930 revolution. What was the 1930 revolution? Well, we had some things going on in the country. First, the people was really tired of all that electoral corruption, the controlled vote, the clientelism that was basically the payment of the payments with certain favors in exchange for votes, right? And really, the people was tired of that. The other state governments were tired of that. We had in the country a proletariat. Remember that we had many immigrants in the country, and they were always coming with all that background, that revolution background from Europe, right? And they did not feel represented, and neither did the middle class feel represented, by the oligarchic republic. And well, then we had other factors, right, that contributed to this revolution that put an end to the oligarchic republic. The last president of the oligarchic republic was Washington Luiz, right? He was president from 1926 to 1930. And, his motto was, governing means opening roads. So he started many and many works along, the country, along the territory, creating roads. And, he suspended the state of siege, right? Started there in the Arthur Bernardes government. Remember, in the 1923 revolution? Yes. And he was kind of successful in economic terms because, he stopped, printing money, printing cash, right? He stabilized, cash, the cash issue in the country, right? And then the country, was benefited with a relative exchange rate balance and economic balance until the 1929 crisis. Yes. Well, what was the main product here exported by Brazil? What was the economic engine of Brazil? Coffee. What was the main client of Brazil? The United States. Well, so we had the 1929 crisis in the USA, so that means that our clients stopped consuming coffee from us. They stopped buying coffee from Brazil. So we had a huge crisis here, right? And, in addition to that, don't forget that, we still had, this is Washington Luiz, by the way, right? We still had the milk coffee policy, right? That was the basis of the oligarchic republic. However, Washington Luiz nominated Julio Prestes as the governor of São Paulo to be president after him. And that was really going against the milk coffee policy that had been going on for a while, with the exception of Epitácio Pessoa that came from Paraíba. And that happened only because there was kind of a fight between São Paulo, Minas Gerais, and Rio Grande do Sul. So they said, okay, none of us are going to be in power. So they selected Epitácio Pessoa from the northeastern region. But that was exceptional. And none of the two, São Paulo or Minas Gerais, benefited from that. The problem is at this time, Washington Luiz was trying to place in power, to put in power Julio Prestes, a governor of São Paulo again. So Julio Prestes came to Washington, not Julio Prestes, Minas Gerais came to Washington Luiz and said, look, buddy, what's going on? Because we were supposed to be in power this time, right? And then Washington Luiz replied, well, I agree with you, but it cost me so much to stabilize the currency and the economy of this country, and I really believe that Julio Prestes will be the best guy to continue this excellent work. But Minas Gerais said, okay, but that we are going to respond back. We are going to fight back. That will not be as simple as that. Well, so Minas Gerais, Rio Grande do Sul, and Paraíba established an alliance, right? The Liberal Alliance, to oppose the governing candidate, Julio Prestes, right? The proposals of the Liberal Alliance really really cause, the people to identify with them, because they preached the diversification of agricultural production, the secret, no more secret voting, and labor laws. Sorry, guys, here you read secret voting. Yes, it is secret voting. I thought one thing and I said another, right? So anyway, the Liberal Alliance had as proposals the diversification of agricultural production, secret voting, right? No more corruption at the time of voting, and labor laws. So the people went, wow, this sounds really good. And as the candidates, we had Getúlio Vargas from Rio Grande do Sul, and his vice president would be João Pessoa from Paraíba, right? And, well, however, that was a really corrupt time in Brazil, and unfortunately, Júlio Prestes ended up winning the election. And then, really, Getúlio Vargas and the opposition was like, what? How is that possible? We got to think of something. Well, then the salvation came, right? The vice president, João Pessoa, was murdered in that year, right, in 1930. And it had nothing to do really with the presidential campaign. It had to do with some strife, some issues regarding the local politics, right? But Getúlio Vargas used that to accuse the São Paulo government of having murdered, of being involved in the murder of João Pessoa. That's one thing. We also had the 1929 crisis, as I said. And the other thing is that Getúlio Vargas thought about it really carefully, and he said, what else do we need? So is everybody happy with the Oligarchic Republic? Are we the only ones here in Rio Grande do Sul and Minas Gerais and Paraíba that are not happy with this milk coffee policy? No. There were other people, and these people were the lieutenants. Yes. So the lieutenants, through an invitation of Getúlio Vargas, are going to join forces with the Liberal Alliance. And in October 24th, 1930, they implement the 1930 revolution, and Getúlio Vargas is established as the new president. And here we have the end of the Oligarchic Republic. All right, so in our next video, we will be talking about the Vargas era. Yeah, because President Getúlio Vargas is going to stay in power for a long, long, and very important time in Brazil, okay? We'll be talking about that in our next video. And thank you so much for watching this video, okay? See you.